Let's bring you some health stories. Some social media influencers in Nigeria have called on citizens to end stigma and discrimination of persons living with HIV and AIDS. The influencers, who participated in a two-day training and advocacy workshop in the nation's capital, Abuja, urged the media to support government's effort aimed at educating citizens of the disease and the needs to change public perception of the ailment. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, compiled this report.
The fight against HIV and AIDS in Nigeria has been ongoing for the past 2 decades. With the media at the forefront, citizens have been informed of the disease, bringing discussions about HIV and AIDS to the front burner. However, the campaign on prevention, access to treatment, stigma, discrimination, and barriers affecting citizens' knowledge of their status remains a challenge. In a bid to address the issue of misinformation, disinformation, misrepresentation of facts relating to the disease, an effort aimed at reaching young and adolescent citizens through social media, journalists and social media influencers from across the country converged on Nigeria's capital for a 2-day workshop to learn relevant advocacy skills.
People are afraid to discuss HIV. People are afraid to test for HIV. People are afraid when they are found to be HIV positive to go and get treatment. Even when they get treatment and they are given, they are afraid for someone to see them taking the drugs.
Despite evidence that victims of the disease can live longer lives, stigma and discrimination have continued to plague these victims, leading to the death of many infected with HIV and AIDS. Some social media influencers who spoke to News Central Television say they want an end to stigma and discrimination, as they think public perception of the disease is wrong.
It's not an easy road. When I enter the church, everybody starts shifting for me. At a point, I couldn't bear the stigma. At a point, when I'm passing, they will say, look at her, hey, she's a dead human being, she's no more living, That words hurts me so much to the extent that I have to run away from home.
There are a lot of people that are out there, they don't really know much about HIV and AIDS. Some are scared to know about it, which I understand, but then I think it's very, very vital to know your HIV status and how you can live better with it.
Person will never die, no the kind death will go kill them. So the fact that, okay, yes, you feel like, oh yes, you don't have HIV, you really don't know. I'm not saying that you are going to have HIV, but you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow.
They urge all hands to be on deck to support government's efforts aimed at ensuring that every citizen is properly informed about HIV and AIDS.
It's not anybody's fault that we're afraid of HIV. So I think the key is really making sure that you talk to people at every chance that you get.
If you are having sex with one person, you and the person have to do tests regularly, so know your HIV status.
You can actually know your status without anyone knowing about it, and you can actually begin to get treatment through the number, through the helpline.
NACA is doing a lot of work to kick against HIV, and it's they can't do it alone. I'm a Yoruba girl, so Yoruba would say Agbajowo Lafin Soya.
While the role of the media is to educate the public on HIV and AIDS, it is hoped that at the end of this workshop, the media can reach out to citizens, especially the youths, to seek HIV and AIDS services and know their status.
To discuss this, we're joined by Daniel Ndukwe, Deputy Director, National Agency for the Control of AIDS. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Social media influencers are coming to the fore now and speaking about ending discrimination against HIV and AIDS in Nigeria. What do you see as the most pressing issues related to stigma and discrimination in the country, and what are the consequences for the individuals living with HIV/AIDS?
Good evening, viewers. Thank you for having me. It was a wonderful outing today, and I'm actually very grateful to the media influencers. We believe they will help us to combat this stigma and discrimination. So for me, I think one of the most important factors is the fact that people are ignorant or have decided to stick to the ignorance, despite all the evidence that are out there. We know how HIV is transmitted. It's through sexual intercourse. It's through from mother to child, infected mother to a child. It is through blood transfusion or sharing sharp objects. Then anything outside of that, you don't have is HIV transmission. So we can be repeating this, and some people, for some reason, don't want to believe us, and then they discriminate against people who are HIV infected. So I think that ignorance, and if you ask me, maybe tendency to stick to what they believe rather than what the facts are, that is making it difficult to really combat stigma and discrimination. And the implication really is that it makes the person who's infected not to seek for help. Imagine somebody having malaria, you like your family member to support you, maybe to buy you drugs. But if you're having HIV, you can't tell anybody, you suffer alone, you're not able to disclose. You can't even tell your partner, maybe sexual partner, and then the person is also at risk of getting infected because you're telling, brings you to discrimination. I think those are some of the problems.
Can you provide us insights into the current state of prevention and treatment efforts in Nigeria, and what challenges still exist, or barrier in this case, in addressing the epidemic and supporting affected individuals?
Yeah, Nigeria has done very well, over the years. So some of the indicators might want to use will be to look at prevalence and then maybe incidence. There was a time the prevalence of HIV was put at about 5.4%, but now it's 1.3, even below 1.3%. So we are doing well. So that's to say, before, if you count Nigerians, if you get 100 Nigeria, about 5 to 6 of them are living with HIV. Now, when you get 100 Nigerians, it's to say like one of them, between 1 and 2 is living with HIV. So that's a great achievement. So we're doing well. And we also noticed that our coverage of key affected population, which include the men who have sex with men, female sex workers, people who inject drugs, transgender, even people in custodial settings, like in what we call prisons. A number of them are covered with our treatment, which is very good for us. Now, the other population group we're focusing upon as a country is adolescents and young people. We want to make sure they imbibe the right habits, the right knowledge, empower them so that they will remain free of the virus as they grow. And so our approach now is to say, don't wait until people get into risky behavior or are infected before we begin to give them prevention. So we say, give them the message early so that they don't even begin to imbibe those risk factors that will not make them infected, yes.
All right, information ahead of time to avoid stories that touch, as we say in Nigeria. Thank you very much, Daniel, for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.